Hello there, Michelle Short here for My Favourite Things. Today I have a circle scene card to share with you using Parachute Pals. So let's get started. I'm stamping two of the images from Parachute Pals onto some smooth white cardstock. I'm using the cute little bunny in the aeroplane and then also the banner that's going to kind of fly behind him. So I'm going to ink up the two images really well with black ink. And then I can stamp those down onto the cardstock, and I am going to stamp those twice just so that I get a really nice dark outline. In the Parachute Pals set, there are a few different options of sentiments that fit inside that banner. So I'm taking the one that says "Hi there," and I'm just kind of placing it over the banner where I think I would want it to stamp. But before I actually stamp it onto the cardstock, I want to make sure that it's where I want it to be. So I'm taking a piece of, this is actually quilter's plastic, kind of like a quilter's guide, but any sort of packaging or anything clear, acetate or anything like that would work. And I'm just stamping it onto that so that I can see if I need to move it. And I did need to move it slightly, but instead of moving the stamp, I decided just to move the actual cardstock, and so that the stamp would still stamp in the same place, but the cardstock moved. And so I can just ink up that sentiment and then stamp that down. I'm then going to colour the images with Copic markers, and as I usually do, I'm going to colour darkest to lightest. That's just my preferred method with Copic markers. So I'm starting off by colouring in his hat here, and what I didn't realise was the two kind of things hanging out the top of the hat are actually his ears, but I did colour them as if they were kind of flaps on the hat. So I did mess up slightly there, but actually when it's all finished I don't think it looks too bad, but I didn't realise until after I'd finished, but never mind. So I'm going in with some dark browns here, and then for his fur itself I'm using the same colour family but just going in with some lighter shades. So I am going to colour over the goggles part, because if you're colouring something that's transparent, you would see the colour of his fur kind of through it. So what I do is I colour it in the fur colour and then I go over it with a really light blue, and that's going to make it so that it looks like there's something there, in this case kind of like glass or sort of plastic. But you would still see that kind of fur colour through it, and I think it worked out quite nicely. And then I can move on to colouring the plane. So I'm just using some yellows here for part of the plane and then also his little top, and then using some purples for the rest of the plane. I very much doubt that you get purple and yellow planes, but I thought it looked quite cute and just added a bit of kind of pop of colour to the card. So as I said, usually I do always work darkest to lightest, but with these purples I do add kind of like one of the mid-tone colours first and then go in with the darkest shade, because that darkest shade really is very dark. I find that I get a nicer blend that way. And then I can just colour in all of the lighter shades on top, kind of moving the colour up so that it's lightest at the top of the plane and darkest at the bottom. And then on this round I didn't feel like I got a great blend, so I do go back in with two of the mid-tones and kind of just pull that colour up a little bit, and I felt that I got a better blend that way. And then I can just finish off with the lightest colour at the top. I can add a little light blue onto the kind of propellers there. And then for the banner, I wanted it to kind of read as white, but I do have other elements on my card that are white. So I just did some really light greys, and then I'm using the colourless blender just to kind of blend that out so it's a really pale grey. I'm then taking the Parachute Pals Dynamics. I can place those over the coordinating images and stick those down with some low tack tape. And then there is a coordinating stamp for the clouds, but I decided to actually just use them as dies themselves, just so that I can have some white clouds in the background. And then I'm also using the Cutest Clouds Ever Dynamics. That is actually the name of that set, but they really are very cute clouds. So I'm going to cut those as well. And I am actually going to cut 2 of each of the cloud so that I can pop them on top of each other for a little bit more stability. So I can just pop those pieces out after running them through my die cutting machine. And then while I was die cutting, I also die cut a circle from the A2 Stitch Circle Stacks Dynamics. This is about 3 5/8 of an inch diameter, and I'm going to add a very small amount of Mermaid Lagoon Distress ink onto it. I did kind of get rid of most of the ink off onto a scrap piece of paper, and so that I can get a really nice light blend. I wanted it to be darker in the middle of the circle and then blend out to white at the edges. I'm just using what ink is on that brush. I'm not going to add any more onto it. It is really quite light. It's lighter on camera than it is in real life, but it is still really light in real life as well. I just wanted a really kind of light sort of sky colour. I'm then going to stack up those clouds one on top of each other, so it's just 2 high, and I'm using some On Point precision glue for that. I like using liquid glue so that I've got a bit of time to kind of wiggle them together and try and line them up as best as possible. And then I'm going to add a small amount of the glue just onto the edge of that banner piece so that I can stick it onto the back of the plane. And then before that dries, I'm just going to kind of place it over my panel here so that I can see if it's where I want it to be, kind of sort of in a straight line, but not quite. I want there to be kind of a little bit of movement to the plane and the banner. And then once I'm happy with where it is, I'm just going to reinforce that glue just with a little bit of clear tape along the back. I am going to add some foam tape over it as well, so that's just going to hold it even more, but I like to just add that little bit of tape just in case. I can then adhere the clouds down with some more On Point precision glue, and I'm using the plane and the banner there just to give me a guide of where I want the clouds to be placed. So I can just add a small amount of that glue on the back and then just pop this one down behind his head. I've then added some thin foam tape onto the back of the plane and the banner. And then using some tweezers, I can just place that down onto the panel. And the tweezers help so that I can kind of hover it over the panel before I press that down. Then to create a card base, I have taken some grape jelly cardstock and I have cut 2 circles using the A2 Circle Stacks Dynamics. So these are the ones without the stitching detail on, and I'm just going to score a line about half an inch, excuse me, from the top of the circle. These circles are about 4 inches in diameter. And then I'm also going to score a line just at the bottom, and this is going to give me a guide so that I can cut a little bit off of that bit at the bottom. The reason I'm cutting it off is so when the card stands up, it's going to stand up really nice and stable. You don't necessarily have to do this. A circle card will stand up as a circle shape, but it does just give it a little bit of stability, and it makes it so that you know exactly which kind of part of the card is actually straight. So I'm using that piece there at the top as a hinge. So I'm adding some score tape onto that, and then I'm also going to add that On Point precision glue as well, just to the side bits where I didn't get the tape, but then also covering the tape as well to give me that extra little bit of time for the wiggle room so that I can stick these 2 circles back to back. And then that piece there that I've added the score line is going to be the back, and that's, like I said, going to create a hinge so that I can lift up that piece. So I'm just going to stick that down really well, and I'm going to hold it while I do just open out the card, because I want to make sure that that does just stick down really nicely. So I'm kind of opening it from the back at this point, and then this is the front here. So when you open it, it's going to open really nicely, and I'm just going to kind of reinforce that score line at the back as well. And that's just going to make it so that that card stands up really nicely. And then because I want to add the panel on straight, I'm just going to use that little bit that I cut off at the bottom and line it up with the lines on my craft mat. I'm just going to hold it there temporarily with some post-it tape, and that's so that I know that that card is going to be straight when I put the panel on top. So I've added some thin foam tape onto the back of the panel, and then I can pop that down. In this instance, the images that I added on top, it wouldn't really matter too much if they were slightly off, but some images would really matter if they were straight. So that's why I like to just cut that little bit off of the bottom. It helps to make sure that you know that the card is straight, and then also, like I said, it makes it so that it stands up really nicely as well. To finish off the card, I wanted to add some clear droplets. So I'm using some more of the On Point Precision Glue and just adding small dabs of that over the clouds and also the background kind of sky there, and just adding those droplets on top. And I quite like them because they're clear. They don't add too much kind of extra fussiness to the card because they're clear, but it does just add a little bit of extra embellishment. And then to finish off, I wanted to add some crystal glaze onto his goggles so that you can see that they are kind of glass or plastic. And that's when that dries, that's going to dry completely clear and just give a really nice shine to those goggles. And so that's the card finished for today. I'm going to show you here that it does open really nicely. I would probably put some white cardstock inside to write my personal message on, but you can see here that it stands up really nicely as well. Here in the UK, I would add the card into a square envelope, but it does fit really nicely into an A2 sized envelope as well. Links to the products that I used will be listed in the description bar here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.